Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Chief Executive Officer of Apigee, Chet Kapoor.
Thank you very much. The universe will not be the same. What a great way to get started. This is our fourth I Love API conference. We did the first two in San Francisco, a great location, Fort Mason, worked out really well. For those of you that attended that, you would agree that the sound here is going to be about 1,000 times better. May not be the view, but at least the sound. Our third one was in Europe, and that was very successful in London as well. And the fourth one here is in San Jose at the historic Civic Theater. I hope you've had a chance to look around. This place has had people like Frank Sinatra, even Yanni, for those of you that want to admit that you like Yanni, and recently had the So You Think You Can Dance show. So great to be here with all of you, and look forward to a phenomenal conference. Let me first start by saying thank you. We get up every morning with only one goal, and that is to serve our customers. And we are honored and humbled every day that you give us a chance to be part of your digital journey. It is a pleasure to actually try to build products that accelerate this journey for you. A lot of these journeys would not have been successful if it wasn't for partners that actually helped us and helped you be successful. So we're very grateful to have our strategic partners like SAP and Accenture and many others that we're working with to help you with this journey as well. 2014 was a great year. 2014 was all about digital. You could not pick up a single business journal, whether it was a Harvard Business Review, whether it was a McKinsey quarterly, where it didn't talk about being digital. Boards were talking about it, CEOs were talking about it. The chief digital officer became mainstream. It was all about being digital. But thanks to companies like Uber, we very quickly went from talking about being digital to actually figuring out how we become digital. And we saw that shift happen in 2015. Companies were not talking about the fact that they wanted to become digital. They wanted to talk about how they became digital. And they all realized, and for those of you that have not realized, you're going to get there very quickly, that it's about unlocking your digital assets. You have lots and lots of really cool data about your customers and partners. And the way to get that data out is through APIs. We've certainly seen it in our business. In 2014, about this time, we used to have about 10 billion API calls in our cloud. This is not our private cloud customers who have probably the same amount of traffic or more. But we've gone from 10 billion API calls in 14 to about 27 billion API calls a month. And now it's increasing even further. We have customers in this audience who want us to try to do 1 trillion API calls a year. And so the journey continues. But this traction that we've seen with digital is equal to API is not just about call volume. A lot of it's got to do with the innovation that we are doing with our customers and partners on the intelligent API platform. And so in the last year, we've introduced some great products. We introduced the industry's first API-first IoT product, Apigee Link. It's in beta, and we have some customers for it already, and we are actually going to be introducing it in GA later this year. We introduced Apigee Edge SMB. We saw demand from small and medium-sized businesses and took our Edge product and made it available to SMBs, and it's available today directly from our website. Many of our private cloud customers are not moving to the public cloud because of regulation, because they're regulated. And we have taken Edge and made it work in a hybrid environment where you can run some portions of our technology in your private cloud and the rest in the public cloud. And Apigee Edge Micro Gateway is picking up a lot of momentum with our customers. We also introduced API Health. API Health is a way for our customers to monitor the health of their APIs that they create, as well as APIs that they don't control. But you can see the health because you have a dependency on how you go off and deliver digital experiences. And most recently, we introduced Apigee Studio. It's an open source development tool for developers to build and curate beautiful APIs. It wasn't just these 5 products. We actually introduced hundreds of features throughout, and we are really proud of what we delivered from an engineering and a product point of view, and obviously in collaboration with our customers and with our partners. In addition to what we've already done, just this week, we have some great announcements that I want to go through very quickly with you. Security has been a big concern in the industry. It's not just about letting the good people in, but it's about keeping bad things out. Not just people, but bad things out, and mainly bots. We've been, as a company, working with predictive analytics technologies for the last 4 years. So recently, in working very closely with our customers, we bought predictive analytics and applied it to the bot detection problem. And now we're introducing Apigee Sense. Really excited about this product, and we have great customer traction with it already. Healthcare is one of our fastest growing verticals, and what's driving the growth in this vertical is you and me. We want access to our patient records. We want to know, when we go for a physical, what happened. We want to take a look at those results before we go off and talk to our doctor. Providers, clinics, doctors, they need to find a secure way to take all that information they have and make it available and share that information. So in working with our partner Persistence, we are really honored to bring this, our first solution to market, which is API Health. It's Apigee Health Apex. And we already have some conversations with our customers. We have some implementations going on already. We hope to have many, many more. And you're going to see more from Apigee in the solution space. Pivotal has done a great job with Cloud Foundry. They have become the de facto platform as a service for all private cloud implementations. And Apigee Edge is the first API management product that they're integrating with. We're going to have a demo of this at 5 o'clock at the Developer Forum. Please stop by. You can take a look at their products and see how we've integrated with them. Really excited for all our private cloud customers about this great partnership. And lastly, we've had a great partnership with Accenture for the last 2.5 years. Under the leadership of Mike, Sutcliffe, and others, we have really worked hard on getting and making our customers successful, many great customers successful, and many prospects that we're already working with. And now we're taking the partnership to the next level. We're not just going to collaborate on APIs, but we're going to collaborate on insights and predictive analytics. And so we are announcing a partnership to take Apigee Insights and Accenture Analytics and build solutions so that we can take them to market for different industries. So lots of great momentum all the way through in 2014, 2015, and just this week. And you're going to see a lot more come from us and our partners in the coming weeks and coming months. So the theme of this keynote is about living digital and working digital. And the divide between the two continues to increase. So let's talk a little bit about living digital. I love this picture, by the way. It is about a 3D printed prosthetic. And humanitarianism has been around for a long time. Humanitarians come together, they work on a cause, selflessly work on a cause, or they just work in terms of emergencies. And when they come together, they selflessly help each other. But recently, there is a new type of humanitarian that's emerged, and that's a digital humanitarian. And one such person is Professor John Scholl from Rochester Institute of Technology. He saw this great video about a 3D printed prosthetic on YouTube. He was very fascinated by it. So what he did was he put a nice little note there calling for volunteers and made a Google Maps mashup where he actually tracked where the volunteers were coming from. Well, that was 2 years ago. He now has 6,000 volunteers from 50 countries with over 1,500 open source, completely open sourced, 1,500 3D devices that have been printed. And the kids absolutely love it because they don't look like human hands. They look like these superhero hands that they're using, and it's made a massive difference. What great progress. But we, as a civilization, as human beings, have seen progress like this before. We saw it during the Industrial Revolution. From 1790 to 1990, in those 200 years, our lives changed far more than 7,000 years before that. 7,000 years before that. Urbanization came hold. We had tools that were not powered by humans or animals. And communication became mainstream in many different ways. The telephone, telex, and many other technologies like that. But the digital revolution is dramatic as well, right? For every 100 people in this world, 40 of them now have internet access. And 25 of them do some kind of social media. And based on what I read this weekend, I think the number is more like 35 or 40 of them do social media. But what's interesting about the digital revolution is that not it's dramatic. We know it's dramatic. It's affected our lives. But what's really fascinating about it is that it is fast. It is so fast. It took the telephone 75 years to get to 100 million users. It took Instagram 2 years and 4 months. That's all it took, Instagram. So the digital revolution is not just dramatic, it's fast, and we can see it in our lives. But this revolution has been very personal, right? We started with saying, I want to go off and make a hotel reservation. Then I want to go off and make an airline reservation, and I want to make sure that I can reserve my car, whether it's Hertz, whether it's Uber. So we went from immediate to being interconnected. And now our expectation is that it has to be intelligent. I drive from my home every day between 8 and 8:15 in the morning, and I expect my iPhone to tell me how long it's going to take me to get to my office. I just expect that. I expect our applications not just to be immediate, not to be interconnected, but expect them to be intelligent. So we know how to live. We know how to live digitally. We know how to be digital as consumers. But do we really know how to work digital? Do we really know how to be digital as businesses? Because I think we're moving very slowly on that front, and it's nowhere close to the pace at which we live digitally. So we're going to spend some time talking about being digital as a business. But before we get started, let's talk about what a digital business is. A digital business is simply one that creates shareholder value. This is about shareholder value. It's about what you do as a company. It's about building shareholder value by delivering digital experiences to customers, to partners, and to employees. It's not just about delivering customer apps. It's about changing the way you work across all your constituents. So we think accelerating digital business is about culture, it's about community, and it's about code. But before we start talking about the 3 C's, let's be very, very clear. The old will not get you the new. It has never happened. As much as we all try, we went from mainframes to client-server, from client-server to web technologies, and from web technologies to what we call device, the device wave, and mobile just being one device. The old will never get us the new. We worked hard to make the old work, so we should preserve. We should really preserve what we can, but we need to spend most of our time implementing the new. So let's talk about culture. Let's talk about being digital. You have to start with knowing what the new reality is. You see, every one of your enterprises has the system of record. The system of record that works because you're in business. You deliver quarterly results every year, every quarter. And so the system of record works. But you have these constituents. You have customers, you have partners, and you have employees that live at this digital pace. They live at this app store pace. They want everything done in 2 weeks. And there's a tremendous amount of impedance mismatch between what you can deliver with your system of record and what is expected. And the only way to actually deliver on this impedance mismatch is to actually create a system of engagement. The system of engagement is what bridges the gap between your slow speed and what your expectations are. And that's what two-speed enterprises are about. You have to make sure that the new reality in all your enterprises is about managing the system of record, but implementing the system of engagement. And many of our customers are well on our way to do that. So in this new reality of the two-speed enterprises, what should one do? You should start with not trying to control things, but providing context to things. And the first place you start is by reimagining roles. Think about small teams that have end-to-end responsibility. I know that's hard because we think about controlling ops. Everything has to go through this small group of people that sit in your data center, and they are the only ones that know what's good and bad for your enterprise. But when you live in this system of engagement, in this new reality, you must create small teams that have end-to-end responsibility of delivering the entire experience. The second thing that we have to do is to actually go off and innovate on processes. Gone are the days where we actually had procedures. Sure, you need procedures for factory workers, but do you need procedures for knowledge workers? How about just giving them guiding principles and telling them to innovate between those guiding principles? They do have end-to-end responsibility. They're not just doing a task. They're actually delivering an experience. And so innovating on processes becomes very, very important. And lastly, and most importantly, it's about consistent communication, because you can go off and reinvent and think about your processes. You can think about innovating on processes, reimagining roles, but if you don't consistently communicate, it's not going to happen. And consistent communication cannot be hierarchical. It has to be flat, it has to be open, it has to be transparent. Because if you do that correctly, you're going to create enough context where you create pull in your organization, and you're not always pushing information down. If you do these three, we think you have a great shot at accelerating being digital and creating a digital culture. So we think community is about amplifying digital. And the new reality that all of you that have to deal with, and the faster you internalize it, the better off you'll be, is the digital value chain. We started religiously following the digital value chain about half a decade ago, and we've built products around it, and we continue to innovate around the digital value chain. See, every one of you has a back end. You have an API team. You may not call it an API team, but you have an API team that builds APIs that developers use, and these developers build apps that your users use. And these developers are not just ones that that work for you. They can be from partner developers, and they can be customer developers. And the quicker you internalize this, the better you'll be, because it applies to every use case you have. Every use case you have in your enterprise. It applies to business-to-business scenarios, it applies to business-to-consumer scenarios, and definitely applies to business-to-enterprise scenarios. So get used to this new reality. And in this new reality, the best way to think about amplifying digital is to stop thinking about the army of workers that you employ. Think about the network of makers that you have. We all have a core. We have the system of record. And there's a tremendous amount of value in that core, and we can unlock that. But the first constituent that we should pay attention to is internal developers. We should think of them as a community. We should onboard those developers, use analytics to find out who's using the APIs, how are they using it, and how could you improve the APIs. Because if you do this correctly, you're probably going to land up getting somewhere between a 10-20% productivity increase through your developers. Imagine, for those of you that have large sets of developers and thousands, imagine what that does to shareholder value. That's a tremendous boost on what you can do with customers and with partners. We must think about the partners, and I think this is traditionally something that we as enterprises have thought about. We must think of partners as part of our community. There is an API, they're already in business with us. So giving them the opportunity to have access to more information and the context so that they can extend and complement the API gives us an opportunity to make more money faster, above and beyond what we are already doing. But the last constituent and the most important one is customers. We need to think about customers as makers. We need to think of them as part of the community. We need to think of them as product managers. As much as that makes you cringe, you need to think about customers as product managers. And we need to show up where they are. We need to show up whether it's their Twitter feeds, we need to show up on Instagram, on Pinterest, or the communities they hang out in. Because if you listen intently, it'll make a massive difference in the way we construct and way we deliver digital experiences going forward. If we focus on employees, partners, and customers as an entire network and not separating the three, we have a shot at really amplifying digital as we go forward. So this slide was supposed to say code and delivering digital, and so that's what it says. The new reality in delivering digital is about understanding digital scale. And there's a lot of hypothetical talk. People talk about how many billion API calls are there and all kinds of different things. We've gone from millions of people to billions of people using technology devices. We've got lots and lots of data happening. But the most interesting shift on digital scale is that when human beings, it's not just about human beings touching programs, it's about programs talking to each other. Because every time you touch an app on your smartphone, there is a very high likelihood that it is not just one call to the back end. It's probably calling 7 different systems or 10 different systems inside the enterprise, and probably calling 4 more that you don't control outside the enterprise. That creates a network of programs and a level of complexity that we are not used to, and we must get used to it moving forward. Because in this new reality, every interaction counts. What happens when the app is slow? It's frustrating. What happens when the app doesn't work? It's even more frustrating. So every interaction matters. And in this world where programs are talking to programs that you don't control, you must start with monitoring. Monitoring not just your apps, but monitoring all the systems that you touch and monitoring systems that you don't control. Because it's not just about monitoring them, it's actually about being able to remediate after you figure out what the problem is. Because things, whether we like it or not, will go wrong, right? And when they go wrong, you need to know pinpoint exactly where the problem is. The next thing we have to do is start to build programs that are fault tolerant. That means they have to continue functioning even when there are lots of errors. That is something that we're not used to doing, and that is something we are getting used to as time goes on. And that becomes a critical part of making every interaction matter. And the last thing is continuous delivery. Gone are the days where you do monolithical, let me go off and actually deliver this big chunk of code that we built in the labs for 6 months with 60 developers. This is about taking small, bite-sized pieces of innovation, introducing it, and if there's a problem, going off and rolling back very, very quickly. If we do these things correctly, we think we can make every interaction matter. And that is what we call availability at scale. Every dollar counts. If I asked people in this audience and said, how long will it take you in your data centers to actually spin up 40 servers? I'll get a lot of laughs because, they probably take you a week. Some will say months. It takes you a long time to do this in your data centers. How long does it take you to do in AWS? 10 minutes. What happens by doing something that conveniently is that you're going to spin up a lot of servers you might or might not need. And so what you have to do while you're setting those processes in place to make every dollar count is think about how you architect systems. And the first thing is you have to start by architecting asynchronous systems and not do them synchronously. Because if you wait around, you're going to use a lot of resources as you go forward. The second thing is don't provision for peak. Use elasticity. Ride the demand curve up and ride the demand curve down. It is something that you have to get used to and get very used to going off and doing auto-scaling across all of them. Because no matter what industry you're in retail it's simple, it's Black Friday. right? But they are all industries have sales, flash sales, or end of quarter events. And you will have spikes that you have to deal with. And lastly, automate, automate, automate. Because at this scale, there's no way you're going to be able to keep up. And the faster you automate everything you do, the better off you'll be. But if you do these three really well, every dollar will count, and we call that efficiency at scale. We think every interaction will and must be intelligent. We talked about the expectations we have as consumers, and we think as businesses, that is going to become just as important. The problem is, with all these billions of API calls going around, we certainly see it in our business, human beings cannot keep up. They cannot keep up, and they cannot sift noise from signal. And so the only way to do that is to actually use machines, use algorithms, use machine learning, use predictive technologies to go off and make that work. And if we implement those correctly, these predictive technologies can actually tell us what customers are going to buy. They may not be 100% accurate. But they might be 70% accurate. And that's better than us sifting around through a bunch of noise trying to figure out exactly what our customers are planning to do. And as we've talked about with Apigee Sense, we can also use these predictive technologies to actually go and identify malicious API traffic. These are just two use cases. If we do this correctly, and we do this at scale, we have the opportunity to deliver intelligence at scale. So we think delivering digital is about availability at scale, it's about efficiency at scale, and it's about intelligence at scale. So bringing it all together, accelerating digital business is about being digital, it's about amplifying digital, and it's about delivering digital. But most importantly of all, it's not just the 3 C's. It's about speed. And speed matters because you can do those 3 and you do it over an 18-month period, and it all becomes irrelevant because if you don't do this quickly, somebody somewhere is going to disrupt you. This is a great, great, great chart that Gartner put together of how every industry is going to get disrupted. My favorite square, by the way, is the cleaning services square. I have no idea how that's going to get disrupted, but it's definitely on the chart. And we can talk about this and argue whether cars are going to get disrupted in 2018 or whether it's going to be in 2028. But there is no question that every industry is going to get disrupted in a significant way. It's going to change the way we work. And we've seen this in our business. We've seen this in our cloud. We see the pace of digital acceleration for industries that have been disrupted is already increasing. The API call volume is through the roof. So media was disrupted first, and we had a lot of API call volume from them. The next one was retail, and then telcos, and now healthcare, and financial services is right behind. So as these industries get disrupted, you're going to see the pace of digital acceleration increase across all of them. What's interesting is that 15% of our customers are over 100 years old. And of those customers, as we look at our cloud traffic, they have 10x more API traffic than customers that are less than 100 years old. Maybe these 100-year-old companies know something. Been through a couple of world wars, been through a bunch of disruptions. They know they have to change, and they're running really fast to make it happen. So to sum it up, please be aware of the new reality. The old will not get you the new. Focus on the system of engagement. Make the digital value chain an integrated part of everything that you do. And please try to internalize digital scale. It's not just the number of devices, it's how you build systems and architect systems going forward. To accelerate digital business, focus on the 3 C's: culture, community, and code. And lastly, as I tell all our customers in the interactions I have with them, start walking the path. You can keep trying to plan this the old way and do a 6-month planning exercise with your planning department. But go off and get started because you're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. You're going to learn a lot about how your employees behave, how your customers react, and how your partners collaborate. Because quite frankly, the time was yesterday. Thank you very much.